All right, let's talk about a huge shift that's happening right now in the world of automation. We're moving away from these old, rigid, rule-based systems and into something, well, something a whole lot smarter, agentic AI. Today, we're going to trace that journey from simple workflows to the incredible reasoning systems of tomorrow.
So to really get this, let's paint a picture. Imagine a support email lands in an inbox. Now, on the left, you've got the old way of doing things, a classic RPA bot. It's programmed to scan for a keyword, maybe refund, click a few buttons in some app, and then just paste in a canned response. It's fast, sure, but it's also super brittle. If anything unexpected happens, it breaks. But on the right, that's the new way, an AI agent. It doesn't just scan for keywords, it reads the email. It understands the customer's actual intent, their frustration, their urgency. And then it decides the best next move. Should it write a custom reply, ping a human, kick off a whole other process? That right there, that's the massive leap we're talking about today.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at why old school automation is kind of hitting a wall. Then we'll get into the rise of AI agents and what happens when you smash these two worlds together. We'll even check out a real-world hybrid model and wrap up by looking at what's next.
Okay, so to really understand where we're headed, we gotta look back at where we've been. Let's start with the traditional way of doing automation and see why it's starting to show its age.
For years, automation basically meant one thing, systems like robotic process automation, or RPA. And look, these things are fantastic for tasks that are super repetitive and clearly defined. They run on a very strict if this, then that logic. You know, if it sees invoice number 123, it copies it into field ABC. Simple. They're amazing in structured, predictable worlds. But the second they see something they weren't explicitly trained for, like messy data or a situation needing a judgment call, they just stumble.
Now, as these simple automated tasks started piling up, we needed a way to manage the chaos. And that's where workflow orchestration tools came in. Think of tools like Airflow or Profit as the conductors for an entire automation orchestra. They make sure everything runs on schedule, they handle retries if a task fails, they basically give you a bird's eye view of the whole process. But here's the key thing to remember. They're still just conducting a pre-written score. The music is already on the page, the logic is totally fixed. And that brings us to the new paradigm. It's time to talk about the rise of AI agents.
Agentic AI is a completely different animal. We're talking about systems often powered by large language models that can think and act on their own, well, semi-autonomously, to get a job done. Instead of following a rigid script, they use perception and reasoning. You don't tell them how to do something step by step. You just tell them what you want to achieve, and they figure out the how.
Now, it is absolutely crucial to bust a common myth right here. An agent is not just a chatbot or a raw LLM. A true agentic system has these critical layers built right on top. It has a planning module so it can break a big goal down into smaller, manageable steps. It knows how to use tools like calling an API to grab some data. It has memory so it knows what it's already done. And maybe most importantly, it can adapt. If step one fails, it doesn't just crash, it reevaluates and tries something else.
So we've got these two powerful but very different ideas, right? You have the rigid, super reliable workflows on one side and these flexible, intelligent agents on the other. So the billion-dollar question is, how in the world do they fit together?
Let's put them head-to-head for a second. A workflow runs on explicit rules. An agent? It uses goal-driven reasoning. This means workflows are pretty low on flexibility, while agents are incredibly flexible. But here's the most important difference, right here in the last row. Look at their roles. A workflow defines how a process runs. An agent decides what to do next. You see? They're not enemies. They're not even competitors. They're just playing different positions on the same team. And that brings us to what I think is the perfect way to think about all this. Just imagine this. Workflows are the rails of a train track. They provide a safe, predictable, and governable path from point A to point B. And the agents, they're the drivers. They have the intelligence and the awareness to actually navigate that path, deciding when to speed up, slow down, or maybe switch tracks to best reach the destination based on what's happening in real time. When you combine these two, you get this beautiful hybrid model, which people are starting to call an agentic workflow. It's basically a single process that can orchestrate everything: AI agents, simple API calls, even human reviews, all inside one controllable flow. You're embedding that brilliant reasoning power of an agent inside the reliable, observable structure of a workflow. You really do get the best of both worlds. Okay, that's the theory. But what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's dive into a couple of concrete examples.
Let's go back to that customer support email from the beginning. In a hybrid system, the agent does all the heavy cognitive lifting. It reads the message, it figures out the customer's sentiment, and it decides if it should draft a reply or maybe escalate to a person. But the workflow is what provides the guardrails. It's the workflow's job to enforce the company's SLAs, to automatically route any high-risk cases straight to a human manager, and to log every single action for the audit trail. See how they work together?
Or think about invoice processing. This is a classic automation headache because every company sends you a totally different looking invoice. Well, the workflow handles the structured stuff, grabbing the document, managing the approval chain, connecting to the finance systems. But the agent, it handles the messy, unstructured part. It can look at a brand new invoice format it's never seen before, understand it, and pull out the key data like the total and due date, even handling weird exceptions that would instantly break a rules-based bot.
So where is all this taking us? Let's talk about what automation's next chapter looks like. Before we wrap up, we have got to clear up two really big myths. First, this idea that agents are going to completely replace workflows. The reality? For any serious production-level system, you need both. You absolutely need the workflow for control, for observability, for governance. And the second myth is that Agentic AI is just a cool new name for an LLM. And as we've seen, that's not true. A real agent is a whole system built around that LM core with planning, tools, and memory. So if you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. Agentic AI isn't about throwing out everything we built. It's about augmenting it. It's about placing these really smart, reasoning agents inside processes that we can already control and govern. And when you do that, companies get the incredible flexibility of AI and the rock-solid control of traditional automation all at the same time.
And that leaves us with one final big thought to chew on. As these agents get more and more capable, the huge question we're all going to have to answer is, where do we draw the line? At what point does this automated reasoning become so good, so reliable, that we can step back? And where will human oversight always be essential? I think how we answer that is going to define the next decade of work. Thanks for watching.